Hey everybody, it's Sneb. Well, Wing 8 came out, and what can I say? It was a lot better than I thought it would go. I actually think Wing 8 is pretty good, and I felt like it was important to make another one of these IRL videos where I'm just talking about the game. Okay, so what were my concerns before? Short version, I was afraid the community wouldn't accept it. I was afraid that it would be too easy or too hard. I was afraid that it wouldn't be well designed. I had lots of fears about it. I feared that if it wasn't exactly what the community expected, that it would go just completely poof. So what did we get? Well, we got 3 bosses that are pretty good. I'll talk a little bit in this video about why I like the bosses, what I think they can do in the future, and maybe some suggestions. Now, when you start the wing, you have an option. You go left or you go right. If you go left, you get Desa. If you go right, you get Greer. Now, when I first started, I went left, and left was Desa. Now, Desa, when I first tried it, a couple hours after release, I actually thought Desa was way too hard. I thought Desa was nearly impossible for the average player. But it was because I didn't understand the mechanics at all. And it turns out that if you don't read, you will lose. So it took some while to figure out, but eventually I think that the community has kind of cooked up some pretty good strategies for now. In fact, Desa has one group that practically does nothing. Now I think I've full cleared maybe 5 times now. What I've learned from these full clears, because I've pugged in Discord, I've pugged outside of Discord, I've joined other people's static groups, I've joined training groups. I've got a wide variety of different experiences. What I find is that the groups who are willing to all sacrifice a little bit of damage for bringing some more stability or bringing Aegis or just playing safer in general, they're going to clear Desa much faster. Or at least with fewer wipes, I mean. The groups that were trying to go a little bit more hardcore, you're trying to make it really efficient, they struggled to get the fight. Now, I think that's just because it needs a little bit more time to cook. But overall, I view Desa as perhaps the best fight out of the 3 bosses. Now, I can tell that the 3rd boss, which we'll get to a little bit later, is probably mostly designed with a CM, LCM in mind, but Desa overall is pretty neat. Now, what's interesting about Desa in particular is it has a mechanic where 5 people all need to participate in order for it to go on. What this means for the fight is that literally all 10 people must be alive for quite some time into the fight, or you will just lose. This has actually already been addressed. They are looking at nerfing this and making it so that the green arrow goes to 3 people required. This means that, if somebody dies at like 35%, you can probably just keep going. Will it be a lot more stressful? Yes, but not as stressful as it is right now. It's a lot more stressful. With one person dies, you just have to GG, and obviously that kind of sucks. So I like that idea. I think there's still a lot of room for people to improve on the different strategies, but for now, I think Desa, easily, A+ for me. Desa is a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's one of the best fights in the game. Super, super engaging. And I think that they did a really good job being responsive. When it launched, it had way more HP. I think it had like 83 million or something, and then it was nerfed to 70 million. I played when it had 83 on launch, and I was like, holy crap, this is like such a slog. So now it's a lot better, I would say. Then I went right. Greer. Greer is just AoE hell, okay? You are in an absolute firestorm of boon rip and random yellow circles. And orbs, many orbs. These orbs will make your life very bad. What I like about this fight, though, in particular, is that there's a lot of reflect mechanics used. You actually don't do that super often in raids. Oh, I guess you do it somewhat often, but it's never really the focal point. This is a big focal point of the fight. If you do not reflect, the boss gets empowered and gets stronger and stronger and stronger. As I learned, you can actually kind of brute force this fight with a lot of scourges, because it turns out you can just uno reverso. If they end up ripping your boons and converting them to conditions, you can do the same with Scourge. You remove the condition and turn it into a boon with F2. So Scourge is pretty much the most powerful class at that fight. And it turns out Scourge is actually very good at Desa as well because of all the barrier. There's actually quite a bit of damage pressure at Desa. Enough where you might even consider bringing 3 healers, like the Kiter could be the 3rd, because there's a lot of proximity-based stuff at Decima. But anyway, this isn't a guide. This is just an opinion. Greer is just, like, if you don't pick Scourge, like, what? You could also pick Heal Scrapper, and I think it's Purity of Purpose, where you convert conditions into boons. You could do that as well, and honestly, that's not a terrible idea either. But why not just bring a whole bunch of Scourges that can press F2 off cooldown? I don't know. Seems pretty good to me. So Greer, you have to like split and fight these mini bosses. I'm typically not a big fan of that. It's one of the reasons I don't like Old Lion's Arch as well, because I don't like having like a bunch of different little bosses all at once. It's just it's not my favorite thing. Even I think the only exception to that might be Kadim 1, but anyway, I digress. Greer's a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird like that. It kind of makes sense because the orbs are being thrown by the mini bosses to the main boss to empower it. But Greer, I had like a 25-minute Greer the other day, and let me tell you, if you don't have carpal tunnel already, Greer could give you carpal tunnel. Okay, Greer is a pretty bad boss. Like he's tough. You know, he's scary. So I give Greer like a 6. It's not horrible. It's just not. It's not Decima. Okay, Decima was very good. The other thing is the last one is Ura. Ura is a very good boss. You have to like ascend the mountain to get to it, which is a really cool idea in general. But you ascend the mountain, it's up there. There's kind of like steam and geysers and stuff going on. And I like that you have to have 2 people randomly move off the boss, stack on top of each other, and then use a special action key, an item that you're picking up, these bloodstone shards or whatever, to break them out. The problem with this boss is that currently everybody just cheeses it. I imagine this will not be the case in CM, like you will not be able to do this. But again, Scourge is the God Emperor here, and you're able to just kind of stack and never die. Okay? So if you stack all of the mechanics and just switch out who's picking up the Bloodstone Shard, you'll pretty much be fine. Then you can use Epidemic, Flesh Golems, etc. to just break the bar. On this boss, I like the idea of having people that have sort of set roles. I like the idea that right now people are bringing like Technobabble, bringing a Druid with like insane CC and Mesmer runes, and their whole job is to go out and break the certain geysers that require the CC, because if you don't, the champs come, and the champs are very painful. So I think overall, Ura's a pretty fun boss. It can be a little bit frustrating sometimes because people will panic with some of the mechanics. This is why the stacking strategy, where everyone just literally sits on top of each other and just lets everything happen, is pretty good. A lot of CC is required. I don't know. Overall, I like that boss. I'd say maybe it's a 7.5 or 8. I think an 8. I think it's a good boss. I'm thinking more of potential though. I think it's going to be really good when it comes to the CM and LCM. Anyway, that's kind of, I'm impressed. I thought that things could go fairly poorly. They did not. I think people overall are quite happy with it. I wouldn't say that Wing 8 is a wing where you can just say, hello, new player who's never raided before. Let's throw you in. In fact, I tried that with somebody in the community, and they struggled quite a lot. It was very overwhelming. Decima was actually very doable for them because it's kind of like, okay, like clockwork. Haha, it's kind of like a clock anyway. Like clockwork, you just have to do these mechanics. But Greer and Ura are far more, what's the word? They're far more reactive. Like you must just react to things that are going on. And if you're fairly new to that kind of content, it's pretty fast. So I don't think it's necessarily the best raid wing for a new player, but it's certainly a good raid wing in general. I like the fact that ArenaNet was targeting their current fan base of raids. I think making things for the people who love them is how you keep a fan, and how those fans can try to spread their joy for other fans. I like that they didn't try to make it completely different. It feels like a raid. It feels good to play. I suppose one other minor qualm is that it does feel like it takes a bit long, but I suppose that could be because we just don't quite have the knowledge yet. Like, I think it's been taking me roughly 40 to 60 minutes to complete the raids. Now that's a lot of pugs. I think once we've cooked the strats, it'll get much faster, but currently it's a bit longer than many of the other raids. But that's kind of fine. I'm okay with that, as long as it's not too long. Greer feels like a bit of a long fight, but let's wait till the strategies cook. Anyway, I'm quite excited about Wing 8. I think Wing 8 is really, really good. I think you should be excited about Wing 8 too. I think it's fun, okay? I don't think there's much more else to say. I'm impressed. Things did not go full apocalypse. I'm excited. Also, I have ordered the slug mask. I will slug. There is also a slug, which I probably will do a dedicated video talking about that, but there's a slug, an Easter egg to me in Wing 8. And I am absolutely honored that that is the case. I think that is the coolest thing ever. I am very grateful. And I just want to say thank you for those that did that, made that happen. So thank you. Anyways, folks, that's it for me. I'll see you in the aerodrome. Okay. Next couple of weeks going to be pretty crazy, but I'll see you in the aerodrome. And until next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.